They're not hostile right now. He's just charging at us. He's not actually. Oh! Have you ever wondered what it'd be like to throw away any and all technological advances and revert back to an errant Neanderthal slapping rocks together to solve its problem? Well, as one, that's messed up. And you should be ashamed. Rocks are a perfect solution to almost any problem. Pushy in-laws, rock. Cannibals trying to eat you alive, rock. And the people in the Middle East towards diverging sexualities. But we didn't have that. We had something better. We had an axe, which I plucked out of her body like I used to pluck strawberries on my grandparents' farm, before the Mongols came. There weren't any Mongols here, so instead I segued into explaining the challenge. The rules go as outlined here. Only the plain axe is allowed to damage enemies or to interact with the native fauna. Play on the hardest difficulty, hard survival, where the enemies have the most health and we heal the slowest. We're allowed to use any of the core tools to get around, and the challenge is complete once we save our son. We started off this challenge by collecting as many supplies as we could from the luggages before heading off to the yacht. We took all the soda and snacks we could from there and decided to go to the sinkhole. To get to the bottom of it, we are going to need 3 items: the climbing axe, the rebreather, and the keycard. Our first goal was a climbing axe, located in Cave 9, the Ledge Cave. This wasn't my first time spelunking into a strange hole, and it certainly wouldn't be my last. As Shakespeare once said, "Once more into our breeches, my friend." Sadly, we let Shakespeare down, as there were, in fact, no breeches to enter, only ropes upon ropes to descend. As we reached the bottom, I was elated upon seeing something new, my brain positively throbbing with hints of dopamine. What could be at the end of this pool of water? As it turns out, more rope. I descended down the ropes, my brain blue-balled, where I was ambushed upon reaching the bottom. A feral tribe of warrior children proceeded to beat me harder than I beat myself up over my past relationships. Unfortunately for them, they were no match for crippling compartmentalization and disassociation. Making our way forward, we found a crevice which we slithered through. Upon reaching the other side, we were met with an intimate view of the sinkhole, which I proceeded to nickname after a girl at my university, Big Bertha, for it reminded me of her giant, gaping ass. Following along the ledge, we found some gabbies and some bottles of that cheap $7 vodka you'd find at your shady off sale at 3 a.m. I swallowed the gabbies and downed them with the vodka, per the doctor's order. I felt much better. After continuing down the cave, we did one of my favorite things once again, hanging by a rope. Climbing down a rope. At the bottom, we threw a flare, where it then illuminated a young gentleman. He made as if to run away, then ran towards us. We proceeded to massacre him, his reinforcements, and finally set him on fire to finish him off. Little did we know that that young man had a family, and families should do things together. At least, that's what I said as my companions started to fight them as I slinked off to get the climbing axe. Unfortunately for me, both died, one being murdered by mutants and the other breaking their legs at the bottom of a canyon. Somehow. This was one of the more difficult aspects of the challenge, wrangling my compatriots. They did not have the same cowardly survival instincts I myself had so finely owned running from the Mongols. It was decided, much to my dismay, that they wanted to restart from our tent save. So we restarted. I popped more gabbies, killed a man, and retried the gauntlet. This time, doing my best to drill it in their heads. Run, instead of fighting and acting surprised when you die. They learned quick, fortunately, and we made it out of the cave, along with being a third of the way done. Climbing axe complete. Our next target was the rebreather, which we would need to get the keycard. It was located in Cave 5, the submerged cave. We tried for a moment to use the in-game map, but that thing's worse than trying to have a good time in Staten Island. I opened a map on my phone, but unfortunately for us, I failed geology in high school, so I didn't understand how to use a map, or landmarks, or how to get there efficiently. It took nearly 2 in-game days for us to find a landmark I could use, the film camp. There, we took everything we could get our grubby mitts on, which ended up only being arrows and cash. I figured this might be some sort of Hounds of Zeroff situation, so we skedaddled by quickly. After waking up in the morning, we eventually found the cave, did my favorite activity, and entered a small-scale turf war. This cave was my territory, and nothing was going to stop me from selling DMT to the cave kids. Not that I wanted to, mind you, but if I didn't, Joe Rogan would no longer have a podcast. After the mutants were dealt with, I entered my bag, only to get knocked the fuck out by one waiting in ambush. This was one of my first times getting down in this challenge. I was up shortly later, and my assassin was dismantled. Further inside the cave, my companion discovered hairspray for the first time. We found a child's drawing of Big Bertha with papillomavirus, and discovered the most probable carriers of it. We left them alone for a second to come up with a plan. Once we did, we just held block and ran through them faster than my ex does to my squad. Upon metaphorically going through my squad and reaching a dead end, we did a sensible thing and metaphorically fucked me again, before going to the path we were supposed to end up, at the bottom of a dark hole. Oracle broke every single leg in his body as he reached the bottom faster than any of us did. A bit further, we stripped the scuba gear from a corpse faster than Howard Carter in 1922 CE did to King Tut's treasure. Ran past some neo-fascist Proud Boys and found the exit to the cave. Diving gear complete. Now all that's left is the keycard. Located in Cave 6, the lawyer's cave, we saved at a tent and ran past some mutants. Jomei and Oracle were behind as I screamed at Jomei, "Which way?" as he bore down on us. The way I had chosen was correct. Somehow, without me seeing, Oracle had gone promoted from being murdered in the back of the pack, being murdered in the front, of which I had a great seat to watch. After reviving Oracle, then dispatching the mutants, we found a ledge which led to a great view of a pile of bodies. My mood was instantly killed. It reminded me of watching The Boy in the Striped Pajamas. All the death in the movie made it hard to laugh at all the jokes. But I wasn't laughing as I prepared to face an Armsy. I jumped down, held block, and ran to the end to pick up the keycard. I ran back and revived Jomei, and we escaped safely out of the monster's reach. The way out was simple: quick murder and a bit of a squeeze. Keycard complete. A bit further of a trek, we start to gather supplies to build something for the first time. A log tent and an armor stand. The reason why we built that is where the exploit comes into play. See, you can save your status in the host game with all of your armor, then quit without saving and rejoin, effectively doubling the amount you have each time. Now some people might call this cheating, but you'll find out very soon that didn't help that much. Because we hit like a kid with one of those inflatable hammers, and in return, we get hit like an abused housewife. After getting knocked down and getting back up, I saw multiple Justin Gaethys circling around me. Or at least that's what I think Tony Ferguson saw after taking more abuse than my father's liver. But unlike Tony, I was probably considered unarmed, and it took multiple swings for us to finish the rest of the mutants. Afterwards, I finished duplicating bone until I had a full set on me and one in my inventory. It only took a few moments for trouble to find us on our way to Cave 7. Rudy Giuliani was hot on our trail and looking to get to our child first. We ran, him tucking in his shirt right behind us. Adrenaline was pumping and we nearly missed the cave entrance. Luckily, Emperor Jomei had his wits about him and pointed it out. Inside the cave, we passed a man hanging by his feet who had clearly fallen from a skateboard and gotten a bit of road rash. A bit further there was an Armsy block in our path, so we ran past him. Unfortunately, his boys were a little quicker and ambushed us as they broke down the wooden walls. I thought we were home free after getting past there, but the mutants caught up to us and started ripping into Oracle. At this point, we witnessed something I'd never done in my whole 5 hours of playing with these guys. I was brave and selfless. I ran in front and took the heat to allow Oracle the time to escape. It was life-changing. I made a personal vow to never do that again. I could have died. A bit further down that pass, we found a ledge, climbed a ledge, ran past an angry walking phallus, jumped down a hole, had marshmallows, tripped into a pond, and finally found the door. I put a rock in the lever and dodged an Armsy for several seconds successfully before my teammates came in and got hit instantly. Put another rock down, walked over a bridge and got a bionicle stuck in my foot, all to put a skull down for variety. Outside I wham blasted a man to show how long it really took to kill one, which I didn't even end up doing even after 6 strikes with an upgraded axe. I gave up and ran, jumped over a rock to escape, right into the pond's cloaca. It was here I discovered a picture of the meaning of life, and finally entered the facility. Gameplay was riveting, as instead of squeezing through rocks, I was squeezing through vents like breath through a smoker's trachea hole. After that image leaves your head, we entered a much more pleasing environment, and I immediately went to the vending machines to stock up on sodas and cigarettes. After I had an overwhelming nicotine buzz, we used a broken beam to leave and get back into the real log pinch of the game. The vent crawl. Unfortunately, that was short-winded. I was forced to drop down into an actual room. There, I discovered a porno mag for scientists. Oh, look at me. I use tools. Watch me build. I had to put a stop to this. Our first round of opposition was a band of child combatants. It was clear the scientists were taking military cues from Myanmar. We ran forward, desperate to stop them. After we were done that, another monster attacked us. This one, I knew from reading spoilers on the internet was weaker than normal, so we stopped to kill it. It still took a prodigious amount of swings, but it was all worth it at the end when we could then claim our mystery meat. We applied mystery meat directly to our skin and continued exploring until we found the last person to let Oprah Winfrey sit on their face. The next room came with a bit of teasing. Did this count as a vent? I was left more confused than bi-curious George. It was almost a relief when we dropped into a regular lab. I didn't pay much attention and ran through. I had things to smash. Like this lone mutant we beat almost as long as when Tom Brady kissed his son on the lips. The next room was interesting too. Or maybe we can just call these rats. I don't know how many more times I can joke about infanticide. But speaking of infanticide, we finally found our son. Son. Complete. Not. Unfortunately, he's got a spike in the head. We were going to have to make a very difficult decision. Would we use these Homo sapien tools to save our son? The very tools that had killed him. Were we any better than the people we had come here to destroy? The answer, it didn't matter. We had only a destination, a goal, and sometimes in the middle of it, you've got to forget about the journey, or else you'll carry all that horribleness, and there won't be enough of you at the end. We steeled ourselves. The decision no longer a choice, but a need in so many ways a breath couldn't be. Oracle's knees were weak, arms heavy, placed a bionicle we built already, scuffed Teddy, his nervous system we attached wires to. But the machines are telling us we needed a volunteer for the chamber. We left ASAP, only stopping to save before we entered the final challenge. There we found the perfect volunteer. I approached, eager to revive my son. As I gingerly made my way forward, she didn't seem to react to me approaching, or to being clubbed in the head. Once I was within arm's reach, we made eye contact and I could tell something was wrong, but exactly what it was eluded me. Then, all at once it hit me, and a profound sense of grief and terror overcame my senses as I nearly fell to my knees. It wasn't her recreating me flying American Airlines Flight 11 into the World Trade Center. No, it was something much worse. It was a strawberry jam all over her hands. It didn't make sense. That was so long ago, but once she started having a seizure, I knew those were the same. It was just how Grandpa used to make them. As I confronted her, she retreated back into her true state, a normal Mongolian woman. As our combat started, most of you who've been in the game before could probably guess how this fight went. It was not a boss made for melee. Normally you would go in and throw bombs or arrows you've spent the whole game collecting and crafting, but we didn't have that. We had a regular axe. And the best thing we could do was light that axe on fire. The downside to that was now instead of being hit by a 650-pound amorphous Beyblade, we were now being hit by a 650-pound amorphous Beyblade on fire. The fight didn't get any better from there. I tried to play it safe, support my comrades and strike where I could. The problem with that was there was no playing it safe. To kill Mutant Megan, we'd have to get in close to do it, and anytime you got within 5 feet, she spun faster than my vision after drinking a White Claw. So it didn't take long for us to change strategy. The best course of action now being to human wave attack, which was a strategy used heavily by the Japanese in World War II. Unlike the Japanese, we actually won the war. It may have taken 23 downs and 15 deaths between us over the span of more than 20 minutes of in-game time, but we beat the final boss on the hardest difficulty. But now was no time to celebrate. I ate a Cliff Bar as fast as I could, revived Jomei, and picked up our volunteer. The way back seemed to pass by in a blur as I re-entered the lab. I took a second to look at him, and then used my telekinesis to put the girl in the Iron Maiden. Unfortunately for me, I didn't realize the little girl was actually NBA superstar LeBron James until he flopped to the floor. No wonder the sample didn't match. As I turned to leave, I tripped and got a black eye, or at least that's what I told the police. A bit further down more hallways, we found an elevator. I left before they could catch up, but they still teleported inside. Down the glass hallway, I admired the scenery for a minute before transitioning awkwardly to voice acting out of nowhere. What we found there, this was it. This was what took down our plane. The power obelisk. But this was wrong. The scientists didn't make this. They were just using its power. This was old. Old as a rock. A rock did this to me. A rock took my son. There's hope. Could use the rock's power to bring a suitable host down, to save my own, but in return condemn a person to my pain, my anguish. Timmy, could I be a good father if I was a bad person? Would you love me as I love the same rocks that tore apart our family? 'Cause I don't think I'd be able to. I'm sorry. I'm selfish enough to want you back, but I'm too selfish to put myself through it. What if you just ended up like that Megan girl? I'm not strong enough for that, but I can end the cycle. Goodbye, my boy. Wow, that was really sad. But what actually happened is we pulled Timmy's life support plug almost as fast as evangelical parents with a child dead from cancer claim it was God's plan all along. I took the easier route, skipping the middleman and posting on Facebook to collect those sweet, sweet thoughts and prayers. We took an elevator down, standing in silence as we reflected on our journey. I took advantage of that moment and burned the both of them to the ground before leaving. But I couldn't. Family was supposed to do things together, even dying. And the truth was our bond had forged deeper than ink buried into a page. And so while together we didn't end up saving our son, together, through the hardships, we still beat the forest while only using the plane axe.
You're killing me!
No!
You idiot!
And I will say it's gonna be alright. A lot of good days, a lot of long nights, a lot of good ways to live a long life. And I could say it's gonna be alright. And I will say it's gonna be alright. I'm no longer searching what I'm living, I know what I'm living for. Out the prison I done made it, bust my homies up tomorrow. I made it the distance, it was worth it, that's for sure. The grass is greener, how I see it, feeling like I float, like I'm drifting.